San Francisco supervisors are going to get together to rubber stamp another $9 million in hotel damage settlements due to having unhoused people, homeless folks in hotels that tore the hotel rooms apart. 9 million here, 10 million here, 30 million there. It's endless. And we wonder why the whole housing first thing never pans out. This is one of those stories. You put somebody on drugs inside of a hotel room, it might go south on you to the tune of $9 million in damage. And you know what? You know what San Francisco does? They just brush it off. They're just like, well, I mean, it's pretty normal. You just tear apart a hotel room, as you do. You have a psychotic episode. You're on drugs. I mean, that's just what's going to happen, right? Right? Let's get into it. Let's see what the details are. Here we go. Can you imagine if this was in like the real world, where the city officials, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, had to answer to a board of directors at a publicly run company? Let's see. You allowed these folks into these hotels owned by entities other than yourselves. And then when they tore it apart, you put the taxpayers on the hook for damage to these units. And we're not talking a one-off. I mean, when is the last time you had in a conversation with anybody, oh yeah, they really pulled a Led Zeppelin, or they really pulled a Rolling Stones, or, an AC/DC, or whatever it was on that hotel room, Guns N' Roses back in the day, back when Axl was just ripping stuff apart. When's the last time you had a conversation that you knew of somebody who caused so much damage to a hotel room where, collectively it added up to be $9 million? Never. It doesn't happen. This is where that whole housing first to me really takes a whack with logic, because it doesn't matter what you do with these folks. They're still going to act in the same way because they're addicted to drugs and they probably got some mental issues, and more than likely they've got a combination of both, meaning they've got kind of this perfect mental status for going into a hotel room and just destroying it. Where's another really good example of this happening? The Skid Row Housing Authority basically becoming insolvent and the city having to take over 29 hotel units because same exact thing. The occupants of the hotel have an episode and they tear apart the hotel room. Services come in, get the people the help that they need because they're homeless. They're trying to get them some help. They get them those services. They come back to the hotel, tear it apart for a second time, tear it apart for a third time. And after a while, the Skid Row Housing Authority doesn't have the funds to either take care of the general condition of the building, the exterior, the roof, or any of that stuff, elevator. They don't have the money because they're not able to house people in these units that are all torn apart, and they can't afford to fix them up. So now you've got restricted revenue, a whole bunch of rooms that are just torn apart, and this endless spiral downward into insolvency. And that's literally what the Board of Supervisors is approving, is here's another $9 million for all these hotel rooms that, we had these hotel owners put the homeless folks up in with no conditions. And now we're shocked, but they're not shocked. The public is shocked, but I think the public is less shocked than, especially in San Francisco, than folks like you and I who are like $9 million because they tore apart a room. Why is there absolutely no accountability in this equation whatsoever? Where is the accountability? We don't have any. There is none. This is just business as usual. You know when it's going to become less business as usual? When there is a massive budget shortfall, like is going on with San Francisco right now. And a lot of other communities, a lot of other cities, but especially the cities who don't have the revenue where they once would have from their downtown core, because those are struggling mightily because you've got these people who caused $9 million in damage to the hotels. Well, they're damaging the stores' ability to sell stuff in downtown. They're destroying the ability for big companies to bring people into the downtown because they don't feel like their employees are safe, and their employees don't want to go into downtown They'd rather work from the burbs where it's safer, where people aren't taking a poop on the sidewalk, where people aren't urinating on the sidewalk, where they aren't. I saw another video the other day of somebody was making their $2 for their next pill and they were doing it on their knees in, little corner. And it was just like, all right, that's broad daylight. And that's going on. So yeah, world's oldest profession. I mean, just that kind of stuff. Hey, yeah, I'd like you to buy this Armani purse, but don't look out there because there's some shenanigans going on right now. Yeah, never mind that. Purse, good. Purse, good. Outside sidewalk, not good. Don't look out there. I mean, could you imagine, trying to sell like a Rolex or something out of your storefront and you just got somebody, just doing weird stuff out there? Weird, not weird stuff, but normal stuff, but out in the public, daylight, broad daylight. That's weird. That's highly unusual, shall we say? Highly unusual. San Francisco Board of Supervisors is set to approve another $9 million in damages filed by owners of hotels leased by the city as emergency shelters during the height of the COVID pandemic. A grim subtext for what will be a mostly routine meeting. Yeah, they're going to go over some stuff and then they're just going to, there's another 9. There's another 9 large. It's okay, though. We got lots of, we don't? Yeah. Supervisors are also expected to pass a handful of resolutions that reflect the current state of some of the city's most important communities, including the city's Asian American Pacific Islanders and the beleaguered Tenderloin neighborhood, where Nordstrom just literally today, closed up 2 more shops, said, nope, no mas. We're not doing business here. We're not able to successfully run our operation the way we need to. So you're more than happy to join us outside, but in these 2 stores, no siree. Approving settlements is an important but routine part of the Board of Supervisors' job. City Attorney's Office does most of the work and supervisors review them in committee, often in closed sessions. The full board normally rubber stamps settlements with parties that sue the city without discussion. This week's agenda, however, shows a number of payouts that could spark some chatter. Namely, there's the $9,204,973 in additional damage claims from owners of hotels that participated in the city's shelter-in-place hotel program. And this is just the latest batch to come before the board. Millions and millions and millions of dollars being spent, and there's zero accountability. Again, the housing first thing, which is you put a drug addict in housing because the drug addict happens to be homeless and you expect it to work out. How's that working out for the city of San Francisco having to pay out $9 million? I'd have to say not well. But then again, that's just my opinion. But it is my podcast, so I'm going to say whatever comes to mind. And I am a business owner, multiple businesses. And from that standpoint, when the economics are there, great. When the economics are not there, just ask Nordstrom in San Francisco and their Nordstrom rack. Not so much. We're out of here. This week's figure includes claims from the owners of Kimpton Buchanan Hotel in Japantown, the Executive Hotel Vintage Court in Nob Hill, and the Americania Hotel in South of Market. The Standard, the entity I'm reading this from, has confirmed that at least one of these hotels, the Kimpton Buchanan, has already reopened as a tourist hotel, now known as the Kimpton Enzo. All right. The Shelter-in-Place Hotel program, which ran from April 2020 to last December, temporarily housed over 3,000 medically vulnerable people who would otherwise have been living on the street during the COVID pandemic. Okay, if they're medically vulnerable, what are they doing? Absolutely tearing hotel rooms apart. Now, they're having a psychotic episode, or they're doing it while they're just whacked out of their mind on drugs. According to a city dashboard, 65% of people housed by the program went on to other housing solutions after having caused millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of damages that you, the taxpayers of San Francisco, are happily going to fund. But several hotel owners wound up filing claims against the city for extensive damage incurred in the program. The board has already approved over $11 million in claims, a report issued by the Comptroller's Office in February, predicated up to $26 million in liability. So you got just millions and millions of dollars just flying by, right? Don't worry about that. It's a cool $1,000,000. Not a problem. Not a problem. At least one more hotel damage claim will be introduced tomorrow. That's a settlement of $3.8 million to the owners of the Good Hotel in South of Market for $3.8 million to be voted on in the coming weeks. The FEMA is expected to reimburse the city for operating costs related to the shelter-in-place hotel program. All right, so it's all of us. We all funded this. Oh, I feel so much better. This is so much better. We're having such a better time here. I personally funded the rehab of a hotel room in San Francisco that, somebody put some homeless person up and there were zero consequences for their actions and they got to just tear it apart. And, normally when that happens, somebody's, credit card is on the hotel bill and they, a little bit of damage happens. They're on the hook for it or they get sued. But instead, the city gets sued by these hotel owners. And you know what? They're trying to do something for the homeless population, but that homeless population, that whole housing first thing, you need to get them some treatment first. Mental treatment, addiction treatment, however it is. That's the direction you need to go. But we're just nowhere near any ability to do so. I mean, you hear little, drips here, drips there of stuff going on. And it's like, okay, they're working towards that. But you've opened up the Pandora's box so wide open in a city like San Francisco, where you've got so many addicts doing the same thing that, this is to be expected. It's like, okay, that's what they do. 9 million, cha-ching, rubber stamp that bad boy. All right. The notable settlements to be approved this week include $200,000 to Lynn Rawls, who over abuses she suffered while in jail in 2019, and $436,000 to Christopher Weirwick. I don't know what those cases are, but then you got that. You just got millions of dollars just, flying out of San Francisco. And the income is no longer there. It's not there. Your tax base is declining hard. Another factor we've got going on. Yesterday, we had another major bank, First Republic, failed. U.S. government had to take over on, what was it? I think Sunday. They had to jump in and basically this bank is insolvent. And a lot of those types of banks, because of the whole Silicon Valley Bank deal, they're feeling weak because their depositors have taken out money. Their depositors have said, well, this bank over here went, sideways on us. We've got our money parked at a similar type bank. And so there's a run on the bank. And then when that happens, that bank gets taken over because they, lost their liquidity. You've got yet one more bank that's not in that ecosystem that's basically funding and propping up and, handling a lot of the financing for hotels, for commercial properties, for commercial buildings. And now that you don't have the income revenue stream coming from a lot of these big buildings in downtown, all the money for this, there's $9 million for tearing apart our hotel room. That's going to dry up as well. You're going to have to cut a lot of services. And that's the doom loop that we keep talking about is, all right, so if we don't have money for the services to handle all this stuff, then how does that work as far as what the sidewalks look like, what the streets look like, what the social services that handle all these people look like? Yeah, I got to tell you, it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better. But I truly believe the ways to get better for these situations is not how we're going to handle it because it requires some accountability. And we're just not doing that. That's not a thing. Here on this podcast, News for Reasonable People, I believe a lot in accountability and being reasonable. If you do this and this happens to you, that's on you. If you go in and rob a store and the security guard shoots you and your life ended because that security guard acted in self-defense, it's kind of on you. You did a little robbery action and your life got ended. That happens. Cause and effect. It's pretty basic. And then just being reasonable. You got to be reasonable. You can't just be, crazy stuff. We want that to happen. You got to have normal stuff. You got to have businesses be able to run businesses. You got to have hotels that are, not going to be torn apart. but that doesn't appear to be what we're doing anymore. What we're doing, and I know a lot of this was during the pandemic and we were trying to keep people housed and we didn't want them on the streets, when in reality, the best place was for them to be on the streets because it was outside. And a lot of us said that up front, but it was a very, we were in the minority because everybody was like, lock yourself down in your house. Don't breathe on anybody else. Just socially isolate. Remember when all that was going on and people were actually self-isolating? I didn't buy that for a second. I was here every single day. I just was. I was just like, yeah, we're not doing that. If you guys want to pretend over in your office over there that we're doing this socially distanced thing, just don't go out and get the Rona and don't give it to me. And I'll probably promise you to do the same. Did that happen? No. The Rona got passed around. It's the flu, right? So, we just had that happen. But here in San Francisco, they're just, here's another $9 million, here's 26 million, here's 11 million. And there's just no oversight and there's no checks or balance system. Other cities don't handle it like this. They just don't. They don't have the homeless population as well either. And they also haven't decriminalized a lot of the drugs that are fueling what you've got going on here. They also haven't allowed the criminal activity to go at the rate that they have, where you've got all these businesses literally left and right shutting down. It's what you got going on in San Francisco. You've got an ecosystem that is literally being strangled from the inside out. Not only business, but, socially. You've got, how about the Tenderloin in general? I mean, that is not going in the right direction. So what's going to happen moving forward? This whole hotel thing, that's going to go by the wayside because we're not going to have another pandemic anytime soon. I don't think. So you've got that kind of squared away. But now you've got, we're bringing in the National Guard. We're going to have this tough crackdown on crime. We're going to have this tough crackdown on drugs. I don't think that's going to go. I don't think that's really going to move the needle. I don't think you have enough. You can't arrest your way out of this one. And you can arrest your way out of some of the shoplifting stuff. Yep. You can make that tough. Yeah. But so much of this is just, it's beyond what law enforcement can handle. We're beyond that. This situation has gotten beyond that. And, folks talk oftentimes about, is San Fran too far gone? Is Portland too far gone? Are elements of Seattle too far gone where they just can't get them back under control? Where they just can't seem to get a handle on things? Are we too far gone? Well, when you're rubber stamping hotel damage settlements just left and right because people are so out of their minds, does that strike you as reasonable? Well, how come you're paying all these millions of dollars? Well, because they destroyed the hotel rooms. Okay. How come? Well, yeah, they don't really belong in hotel rooms. They belong in a mental institution, or treatment is housing as well. Now, we don't want to do that because everybody just wants to get the money, right? This was federal money. So these hotels know that the Fed's going to pick up the bill. You and I, taxpayers, FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Act agency. It's all about getting the money, right? It's all about getting the money. So the Board of Supervisors, they're going to rubber stamp these settlements because they want to be able to go back to these hotels down the road if they need to and say, hey, we set up some of our folks in your place. And the hotel's going to go, you betcha. But I'm going to double bill you for all these repairs because that is ridiculous. We should not have to deal with this. But the real underlying deal is you got a bunch of people that are addicted to drugs that should be in mental institutions. Period. But we dumped out of our mental institutions and then we decriminalized drugs. And here we are, rubber stamping $9 million settlements, just left and right, like it's no big deal. Literally, this story makes it sound like, all right, everybody in favor of rubber stamping yet millions and millions more of taxpayers' dollars to pay for ridiculous repairs to hotels. All in favor, say aye. And you can just imagine that everybody sitting around going, yeah, whatever. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we needed the rooms at the time, right? How about if this was run as a legit private business? You wouldn't have that. There'd be some kind of accountability because in private business, which is what we are literally watching unfold in front of us in a city like San Francisco, is private businesses saying, no, we can't operate here. Gone. Done. Private business, if they weren't funded by this kind of thing, you'd have business owners saying, no, we're not going to rent our hotel rooms out to your homeless people, because they tear them apart. And then they do it, rinse and repeat, continuously doing that. So all these advocates for housing first, that ain't going to work. It's just an empty money pit, just like these settlements, an empty money pit. I mean, what did you accomplish by that? You got some people off the streets where they were arguably better off because they were outside in a tent, not getting the Rona inside where airflow and everything else restricts, what's going on. Wild times we live through, right? But, maybe you're living in a city where this doesn't happen. I hope that's true. We had a whole bunch of hotels here in Seattle get just torn apart. And I was kind of new to these storylines when that was happening. And it's like, wait a minute, they're putting people in hotels that they know are just going to destroy them. And then taxpayers are going to pick up the money. I was just like, what? Why? Yeah, this is what our leaders think is reasonable and progressive. And that's kind of what we're doing. You don't see that in other states, do you? Yeah. No. Huh. Weird. All right. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you on the next one. We'll see you then. Bye for now.